Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Laura Prada from the Telesur Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. The Vice President of Ecuador, Maria Alejandra Acuña, has been accused by former advisor of asking for financial contributions during her time as a congresswoman. Ángel Sagbay made allegations in an interview with local TV about this. Vicuña offered a press conference where she dismissed the accusations.
Here have evidence. Ecuadorians have to know that this is not coincidence. Since September, Mr. Sagbay has threatened to forge this statement if we don't meet the demand for charge, particularly as the governor of the Morona Santiago province, as provincial director of FtS. But as we didn't concede to this blackmail, pressure, or extortion, because we are committed to transparency, today the standards are made public.
Now we make contact with our correspondent Denise Herrera, who has more details on it.
According to the Vice President, Maria Alejandra Acuña, in a press conference, he rejected this accusation and also accused of this accusation to Andrés Páez, and also said that she will start an investigation against this accusation. Also, the President of Ecuador, Lenin Moreno, in his public Twitter account, said that the justice will find the responsibles for this accusation. It's all the information we have for now. Back to you at the studios.
Thank you, Denise. In Colombia, a symbolic act for the 2-year anniversary of the signing of the peace agreement was celebrated. But President Iván Duque, along with all members of his party, failed to attend the event, effectively turning their backs on all victims and veterans of the armed conflict.
The FARC political party celebrated the 2-year anniversary since the signing of the peace agreement with the government. Party members lamented the lack of guarantees from the government, which has led to the deaths of many social leaders and former fighters who believed in the agreement.
The
incredibly high number of murdered social leaders and former soldiers is the best way of describing how little guarantees the government has provided for everyone.
The celebration's most emotional moment came from one of the victims of an attack at Club El Nogal. She spoke about forgiving her attackers after listening to the testimonies of guerrillas who truly believed the country could be changed through armed fighting.
The level of inequality along with impossible situations led them down that path. I choose to forgive them. We cannot continue walking down a path that leads to war.
The presence of former combatants and victims was contrasted with the absence of President Iván Duque and members of the Centro Democrático Party, who have openly talked about undoing the peace agreement. The former member of the government's peace delegation to Havana, Cuba, Roy Barreras, reminded attendants that peace is not a political issue.
We have the responsibility to uphold the agreement as a right. To say peace is a political issue. Depending on the government, is to say that there can be no peace where there is no government.
The United Nations has also warned about the Colombian government's failure to maintain guarantees agreed upon.
The process of reintroducing former fighters back into society has been too slow, and many former combatants remain deeply worried about their own safety. Victims instead continue waiting for the funds they were offered.
FARC party members, opposition senators, victims and international delegations repeated their commitment to peace and called on President Duque to uphold guarantees and maintain the peace agreement.
Moving to Argentina, where the Supreme Court has rejected an appeal by the indigenous leader Milagros Sala against her detention. Sala has been in prison or under house arrest for most of the last 2 years in connection with several charges. This appeal related to the so-called egg case, where she was accused of throwing eggs at the house of Gerardo Morales, the governor of Jujuy province. She said she wasn't even present that day, and the cases against her are considered political persecution. We made contact with our correspondent Sabrina Ross to know more.
Argentina's Supreme Court has ruled against an extraordinary appeal made by the defense team of Milagro Sala, who has been incarcerated for alleged involvement in an attack against the office of former senator and current governor of Jujuy province, Gerardo Morales. Sala is accused of being the mastermind behind the attack, but she denies any involvement. In 2016, Sala was sentenced by a Jujuy court on charges of aggravated assault and threatening public officials, and sentenced to 3 years in prison. A different court overturned that ruling in 2017, saying the charges of threatening officials were unfounded, and asked another court to review her case in order to provide a new sentence. The Supreme Court's decision is due to the fact that her sentence is not yet confirmed. The court hasn't analyzed Sala's defense team's arguments and has said that to have the Supreme Court look over a case, there must be a definitive sentence in place. Therefore, a Jujuy court must retry Sala and provide a new sentence.
We continue in Argentina, where the country is busy preparing for the G20 summit, which is mere days away. The government is deploying thousands of security personnel and restricting public transportation in Buenos Aires. Buses, subways, trains, and even air transportation services will operate on a restricted schedule between Thursday and Sunday. Over 13,000 police, Navy, and airport security personnel will patrol the capital. In addition, the U.S. and other countries are also expected to help with security for the global conference. Finally, the second leg of the Copa Libertadores final between River Plate and Boca Juniors will be played outside Argentina in the first week of December. The final was initially only delayed until Sunday after River Plate supporters attacked the Boca Juniors team bus after being postponed. At least 6 players were injured and some were affected by tear gas and pepper spray used by the police to disperse the River fans. A statement from the South American football governing body, CONMEBOL, said a venue would be decided as soon as possible.
No, I'm not going to give my opinion because we have no intention of playing another final. The Discipline and Sanctions Court is now the body which has to decide and which has to study the case and apply a punishment whether it's right or not. After we read the verdict, if the answer is negative, we will appeal to CONMEBOL.
Now we move to Venezuela, and we will check some important information about the program that seeks to support Venezuelans who have been victims of violence and exploitation and xenophobia in some countries of the region. From the 28th of August until the 27th of November, 10,000 Venezuelans have returned to their country thanks to the plan Back to the Homeland. 6,663 of them have returned from Brazil, the country with the largest number of requests. This nation is followed by Peru with 1,302 Venezuelans, while Ecuador has 1,100 Venezuelan citizens. Another 475 citizens living in Colombia were reported as well. In the Dominican Republic, 186 and 171 in Argentina, 91 in Chile, and 1 in Panama. Still in Venezuela, the president of the Supreme Popular Assembly of People's Republic of Korea, Kim Jong-nam, met with President Nicolás Maduro as part of his official visit to the Southern American nation. The North Korean representative was also received by the Venezuelan foreign minister to continue the work agenda. Kim Jong-nam honored the Libertador Simón Bolívar along with the delegation and the president of the National Constituent Assembly, Diosdado Cabello, who emphasized the importance of the visit. Moment for a first break hearing from the South, but you can find us on Twitter at Telesur English and my personal account, Laura P. Telesur. We'll be back. Welcome back. A new migrant caravan is ready to depart from El Salvador towards the United States. This time, hundreds of Central American migrants are taking to social media for answers, whilst also sharing their fears and concerns on these same platforms.
I've been hearing about these caravans for quite some time. I've heard that 2 have left already. This one will be the 3rd. Another one is expected to leave later. Who knows how many more?
We are preparing ourselves because our country is in chaos. We are moving on enthusiastically, hoping we all arrive to the U.S.
During a press conference in Tijuana, members of the migrant caravan made a series of demands to the Mexican and the U.S. governments.
We request of President Donald Trump to accelerate the process of asylum in the United States, because everyone has the right to ask for political asylum, as my colleagues said, that a commission is formed by the new government of Mexico that comes to negotiate a presidential solution for those who want to stay here.
Today is when countries are needed to come to the rescue of all the migrants. We are suffering. We are not suffering because we want to. We need to bring our families forward. And what happened on Sunday was a peaceful march. Many people have their families back in Honduras and went out to work to feed them.
The Mexican government says it's deporting many of the migrants who were tear-gassed on Sunday at the U.S.-Mexico border. Our correspondent in Tijuana, Alina Duarte, has more details.
Close to 100 people have been deported or are in the process of being deported, according to the National Institute of Migration. President Donald Trump has basically said that no one will be allowed to jump over the wall, and he justified the use of tear gas and rubber bullets against people, including women and children. The people who tried to cross the U.S. wanted to be detained on the other side of the border and get a fair hearing. They could not achieve that. After this, tension has spread here in the shelter in Tijuana, where there are more than 5,000 people registered. There are people who have been here for 2 weeks, and it is 2 months since they left home. Uncertainty is part of the life of these thousands of people who are living in different shelters here in Tijuana. We only get access to these shelters twice a day, but we have seen people sleeping on plastic bags and cardboard. A camping tent is a luxury. There are just 24 toilets for more than 5,000 people. Mexican people are helping a lot, bringing food and other supplies. NGOs are giving supplies and medical care to everyone, especially pregnant women and children who mainly suffer from respiratory problems.
Thank you, Alina. Now we go to the Caribbean, where the Scotia Bank has confirmed it's set to sell its banks in 9 Caribbean countries as it downsizes its international market. Their plan is to sell the Caribbean banks to the Trinidad and Tobago-based Republic Financial Holdings Limited. Larger markets in Latin America are still on the table, as Scotia Bank reported that its international profit has been greater than its Canadian business over the past year. Telesur has held meetings in several Caribbean countries to discuss a strengthening in presence in the region. In Antigua and Barbuda, the channel's president, Patricia Villegas, met the Prime Minister Gaston Brown to talk about expanding both production capacity and distribution. The Prime Minister said Telesur had an important job to do connecting the English-speaking Caribbean with Latin America.
And I certainly want to commend Telesur for establishing a branch here in Antigua and Barbuda, which will help to bring the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and, generally speaking, Latin America closer to the Caribbean, so that we can exchange news items and that the people within the region will have information. Those in South America and beyond will have information from the Caribbean, and similarly would understand what is happening in your part of the world. In essence, I think it is helping to integrate individuals in this hemisphere, and it is an initiative that my government welcomes, and we will support the initiative.
We continue in the Caribbean, where advocates will gather in Haiti on Wednesday for a high-level meeting on HIV/AIDS. Eleanor Frederick of Antigua and Barbuda's HIV/AIDS network will deliver the future address on the topic of HIV in the Caribbean. According to the United Nations Population Fund, the Caribbean has the highest incidence rate of reported AIDS cases in the Americas. In Guatemala, the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women had a special significance given the recent murder of Alejandra Acuña with FtS, indigenous women gathering to demand justice for the victims of feminicide.
Lighting sacred fires, these indigenous Mayan women in Guatemala pay tribute to the memory of Acuña.
We women need to get together and demonstrate against what happened to her. We are lighting candles to ask for justice in Alejandra's name.
Alejandra was killed in a brutal way on November 9th in the Guatemalan municipality of Chisec by her partner, Mario Tutical.
She had been subject to violence for a long time and ended up as a victim of femicide. We want justice for our friend.
For these women, the murder of Alejandra reflects the situation of rising violence against women in rural communities.
When institutions do not take action, it's a big setback for us women. That's why we demand the judiciary to do their jobs with no ifs, buts, or excuses.
According to official statistics, in 2018, there have been more than 700 cases of femicide in the country. These figures could be even higher, as not all cases are properly registered.
We still justify violence against women. We normalize it. When a woman experiences a violent situation, society blames her.
During the march, women also rejected the use of violence against women in public spaces. They also wanted to highlight the sexual abuse accusations involving Guatemalan President Jimmy Morales, who had the case against him thrown out.
Moment for a second pause. Hearing from the South. Stay tuned. And we are back. The Simferopol court issued 2 months arrest for 12 of the 14 members of the Ukrainian military vessels. Crew members were detained for illegally crossing the Russian border and organizing a provocation in the Kerch Strait. They claim to carry out orders from superiors. According to the Ukrainian authorities, their ships have the right to navigate the area in accordance with international law, but Russia denied this statement. Dozens of demonstrators came together on Monday in the center of the Tunisian capital to protest against the visit of Saudi Arabian Prince Mohammed bin Salman, allegedly responsible for the assassination of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The Saudi heir prince arrived in Tunisia this Tuesday to meet President Benji Caid Essebsi. The meeting was attended by hundreds of people to show their rejection to the visit of the Saudi heir. They sang "The murderer is not welcome in Tunisia" and shame of the rulers of Tunisia for having received bin Salman. Since the Arab Spring uprising in 2011, which toppled the stringent rules of the region and provoked agitations, Tunisia has experienced a major political evolution. A United States federal judge has failed to rule on whether charges against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange should be made public. Free press advocates want the judge to reveal the charges that Assange faces. However, prosecutors are arguing that the public has no right to know the charges until an arrest is made.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason that the Reporters Committee in particular is particularly interested in this matter is because of the possibility, or at least a suggestion that's been made, that the criminal charges against Mr. Assange are predicated on his publication of information, which is obviously something the news media does quite a bit. We also think there's just a general public interest in this case, not just in understanding, understanding how the court functions, but also understanding what happened in this particular matter, which has really captured public attention. So I think the public interest certainly weighs in favor of disclosure. We'll have to see, I think, how the court ultimately comes out.
NASA's InSight spacecraft have already sent the first image after landing in Mars. Engineers in Los Angeles bursted into cheers as they received signals confirming the spacecraft arrived on the red planet. After a 7-month journey, the InSight sent selfie photographs showing the edge of one lateral leg beside a rock. Now, it begins its 2-year mission studying seismic movements and underground temperatures on Mars. Like this, we've come to the end of this news brief. This and many other stories, you can find them on our website, telesurenglish.net, where you can see more news, more opinion articles, and of course, special interviews. Don't forget to also join us on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for watching.
Follow the most important global events through a comprehensive perspective. With a team of journalists in 25 locations around the world to convey our people's reality. From the South. Weekdays. Only on Telesur.
Me gustaría tener un mundo mucho más inclusivo para todos.
没有贫穷.
Στην ανθρωπότητα θα ήθελα να δω παραπάνω αγάπη, αγνότητα, πολιτισμό και επαφή με τη φύση.
Que el ser humano despierte su conciencia.
I want humanity to see itself as one humanity.
We are the people, a space, a voice. We are Telesur without borders.
Telesur brings you special interviews with social and political personalities. Monday, from Washington. Tuesday, from Mexico. Wednesday, from Caracas. Thursday, from Quito. Friday, from Havana. Analysis about our continent's reality. Weekdays,